Hello everyone. This is the 49th part of the story, Magical Journey in Harry Potter World. Chapter 129, Quasp, Development in Picture. What do you think he is going to show us this time? Asked Leah West to her grandfather and career mentor about the upcoming event that she was so excited about. George West glanced at his beloved granddaughter and faintly beamed the excitement the young woman was showing. 2 years ago, she had been reluctant to sit at the same spot in the same room and complained about why she was called back home while working on another project, but the success from the meeting's result had charmed Leah and George as well. While he didn't show it, George was equally excited about the meeting that was about to start. The result of the first meeting was by far the best product that West Business had ever created. It had revolutionized a majority of the mail industry, bringing in massive profits by the day. I'm in the same position as you, my child. I have no idea what he will show us today, smiled George and thought about how blessed he was to have Leah and Quinn as his grandchildren. He had taken Leah under his wing when she graduated from Beauxbaton's Academy of Magic, and had been guiding/grooming her to be the next head of the business and his successor. George had some expectations of his granddaughter because Leah had always been an intelligent child ever since she was young. She was the top of her class, had excellent communication skills, and held a genuine interest in joining the business and being a part of the family legacy. However, Leah had surpassed his expectations. She displayed grit and a hard-working attitude towards the work she was assigned, something George thought Leah would lack at the start and gain with time. She actively took on responsibilities, and even though she made mistakes along the way, her tenacity to learn and implement what she learned had seen that Leah grew at a steady and rapid rate. As things were going now, George was confident that the future of the West family and his own legacy would flourish under Leah's hands, and when the time came, he would step down and let the next generation take the lead. Then there was Quinn West, his amazing grandson. Unlike his sister Leah, Quinn wasn't interested in the family business. George knew that Quinn ran a successful mini-business service inside Hogwarts, something the ancient school had never seen before. And Quinn was the main contributor to the most significant product that had seen the West business and in the entire magical world in decades. Regardless, Quinn was interested in magic rather than running a business. Quinn's passion had been clear from a very tender age. Ever since Quinn had performed his first accidental magic, he had been hooked on magic, always looking at magic with starry eyes and with a young curiosity. Besides that, Quinn showed overwhelming talent in the field of magic, a talent level that George had never seen before. The fact that Quinn could practice wandless magic since the age of 5, Quinn's own account, had stunned George and the entire family. At that point, everyone in the family realized how talented Quinn was in magic. All of them came to the unanimous decision that if Quinn wanted to pursue a life in magic, they would fully support him to the best of their ability. Oh, Maria, if only you were here, thought George about his late wife, the love of his life, and felt sad that he couldn't share his happiness with the person he had loved the most. A knock on the door snapped George out of his thoughts. Leah perked up in her chair. The door opened, and Quinn entered the room. He was smartly dressed in a well-fit white buttoned-up shirt with faint light blue strips tucked into light grey pants under a darker stone grey sleeve suit vest. The craftsmanship of the clothes looked non-magical, showing his penchant for buying clothes from the non-magical world and modifying them to his tastes. Though the light brown shoes on his feet were of a magical origin, made from the leather of a riem, a magical creature that resembled a giant ox with golden hide. Quinn looked calm and relaxed as he entered the room with a comfortable smile on his face. George and Leah immediately felt confident about the upcoming hour because of how Quinn held himself. They both were business people and knew how big Magifax was and knew that expecting something as notable as Magifax wouldn't be unreasonable. Their expectation from today was to enjoy what Quinn created, and if it was marketable, they would put it into production. Quinn's relaxed demeanor showed them that he was confident in what he was about to show them, and that raised their confidence in Quinn. "Good afternoon," greeted Quinn as he closed the door behind him and walked towards the table George and Leah were sitting behind. Interestingly, he didn't have anything in his hands. He effortlessly waved his hands for the bar stool at a corner which slid across the room and stopped beside Quinn. To this day, George and Leah still felt surprised when Quinn used wandless magic. Last summer, Quinn didn't have control over magic, and when he regained it, it was time for him to go back to Hogwarts. They didn't get to see wandless magic from him until Quinn returned home for Christmas and Easter breaks. Quinn entertained their requests during those breaks and showed him what he could do without a wand or a focus. It boggled their minds how great at magic Quinn was. He, without a wand, was leagues better than children his age were with wands. He had shown them enough magic to confirm that Quinn was way better than most adult magicals and could be considered well versed in magic. "I hope I didn't make you two wait," spoke Quinn as he sat down on the bar stool and faced them. "It's good to do this after so long, a shame that we had to skip out on this last year. Unfortunately, my health didn't permit me to conduct an event like this." Quinn didn't look sad as he summarized the events of last summer. Although a tough time, he had gained essential lessons from it. "I'm healthy this time and I had a lot more time to create some interesting items and products that might intrigue you," continued Quinn, making eye contact with his grandfather and sister. "And with some luck, let's hope that the items I show you today will bring prosperity to our family and, in turn, all the people around the world who work for us." Quinn felt good sitting in front of George and Leah. He then introduced some of his inventions to them. His inventions were practical applications of the magic he learned. Quinn strongly believed in applying whatever he studied. Theoretical knowledge was incomplete if it couldn't be used in real life to create something. Of course, Quinn couldn't use everything he learned, but he tried to utilize whatever he could apply. "Welcome to Quinn West's annual summer product pitch meetings, abbreviated as QUASPM," grinned Quinn. He had coined his pitch meeting with a new title and a long, nonsensical abbreviation. George lightly chuckled while Leah softly giggled. If it was someone else, they wouldn't have shown this reaction, but this was Quinn, and they were family, so being decompressed like this was acceptable. And even if Quinn spoke like this to someone else, he wouldn't have gotten in trouble after the success of Magifax. One product had turned into multiple lines of products with various specifications for diverse customer bases. The profits that Magifax brought were enough for Quinn to act any way he liked. Of course, except for the family, no one knew that Quinn had developed Magifax. The designs for Magifax were under the name of the West business, and Quinn was simply granted a share of profits that George had set up for him. "So what do you have for us today?" inquired Leah, her excitement peaking in anticipation. Quinn gazed at Leah, slipped his hand inside his vest, and took out a potion vial from his detachable expanded pocket. After placing the vial with the translucent red potion on the table, Quinn's hand once again went into the pockets and took out a rectangle, long polycer-styled envelope, placing it on the table beside the vial. "As you know, I usually frequent Scrivenshaft's quill shop in Hogsmeade during my time at Hogwarts," started Quinn, and the other two nodded. Quinn had been caught in between the abduction of Harry Potter when he was returning from Scrivenshaft's quill shop. It was safe to say that Scrivenshaft's quill shop was the store that Quinn visited the most in Hogsmeade. The shop, being a stationery-cum-printing store, provides many printing services when not serving the students of Hogwarts with their stationery needs. And one of the services that the manager Gary provides is developing film to produce photographs. The cameras that were used by Magical Society were analog film cameras and were non-magical products from the early 90s. These cameras didn't need a single spell to take photographs. Everything from the camera components to the film used was non-magical in origin. This was the reason why they weren't flagged by the Misuse of Muggle Artifacts Office, which regulated the use of magic on non-magical objects and tried to keep items that had been bewitched away from non-magical folks. The magic behind the signature moving photographs of the magical world didn't come from the camera, but from the developing method. The developing solution was a potion that, when used in the developing of photographs, allowed the pictures to move. And because of that developing potion, the magical world could use non-magical equipment to add photography into their culture. "Let's put the moving photographs aside for this talk and focus on color," continued Quinn while talking out 3 more objects from inside his suit vest, placed them on the table, and faced them towards Leah and George. "Now, let's see what we have here." The 3 objects that Quinn took out were 2 pages and 1 photograph. The 2 pages had 1 photo on them, 1 colored and 1 black and white. The 3rd photograph was a colored print like any other shot printed on a photo paper. This one was a 3R, 3.5 inches by 5 inches, 8.89 centimeters x 12.7 centimeters, size. "We know that adding color to a picture is possible as seen on this paper and photo," noted Quinn while tapping on the paper with the colored picture and the colored photograph. "But the problem is that it is costlier to achieve color in photographs. Color photographs are only seen in framed photographs or family albums because we can't achieve it in mass production. Quinn placed his finger on the page with the black and white picture and pushed it towards Leah and George. Pictures like this are what we see in books, newspapers, and magazines. Only a few very costly books and magazines with high subscription costs showcase colored pictures, and even those have a limited number of colored pictures. Leah and George stared at the 3 pictures on the table, and they were well familiar with what Quinn was talking about. Both of them had subscriptions to a few magazines that showcased colored pictures, but they were priced much higher than something like the Quibbler that Quinn was subscribed to. The cost of the ingredients used in the developing solution that enables colored pictures to move is just too high for mass production, printing like newspapers. That's why the market is filled with black and white images and lacks the gift of vibrant colors which, when combined with moving pictures, really catches the eye. George and Leah's eyes immediately went to the potion vial as they took a guess about the vial's contents. Quinn, who saw their reactions, beamed. They were correct in their guess about the vial contents. "Yes, you're guessing correctly. It's exactly what you think it is," said Quinn, causing George and Leah to look above at him. "Once again, I present to you a product that will revolutionize the world of printing." Quinn picked up the vial and shook it in front of them. This one potion can be used to develop films with color and can be used to add color to mass printing like newspapers. If you put this potion into the developing tank of photo films, it will give color to moving pictures. If you mix this potion with any of the cheapest of the colored inks that don't support moving photos, the inks will move, so we'll get colored photos. Leah and George waited without speaking a word because the main issue still wasn't addressed. If the main problem for why colored moving photos weren't more prevalent wasn't solved, then all of this was useless. I got estimates from Gary about how cheap the potion must be for printers to turn a profit by selling colored newspapers and books. The confident smile on Quinn gained then a bit of smugness. This potion is below the price that Gary quoted, and thus I, Quinn West, will provide the world's cheapest colored developing potion. Leah and George stared at the potion vial on the table and the translucent red solution inside. The possibilities flashed inside their brains, and if what was promised was true, then this was huge. They would once again hold a monopoly over print media supplies because before anyone figured the recipe, or created a recipe with similar effects, they wouldn't have any competitors. This product was also perfect for a business like West's. They operated in multiple countries and would directly spread the product without a middleman in numerous countries. Even the countries they didn't have a base in would be a targeted market if they could figure out transportation logistics. With color will come the need for new printing press, explained Quinn. His potion had the potential to revolutionize the printing industry and push them into the color era in one push, but to accomplish that, the world needed infrastructure. The black and white printing machines that can print fast for newspapers and books won't work anymore. We need printing machines that print fast and in color. Unlike George and Leah, who had just heard this, Quinn had worked on this for a few months. He had time to think about what would be needed to make the item a widespread success and not a modest one. During the Easter break, I went to some non-magical places, and even though it took some searching and magic, I found the blueprints of some of the color printing presses that existed before computers, revealed Quinn. Whenever he went to non-magical places, Quinn would leave while informing that he was going to a non-magical zone. Quinn never specified where he was going except if it was to the gym. That's why none of his family had any idea when he got his hand on blueprints for the printing presses. Quinn saw a confused look on George's face, while Leah knew what he was talking about. "It's okay, grandfather, you don't have to know what a computer is. I'll explain it to you some other day. It's quite fascinating. We'll have to take a trip to the non-magical society, though." Quinn had made sure that Leah was normalized with the non-magical culture, and that included the computer. If she was to do business in the non-magical world, she needed to know what a computer was and how it worked. It was lucky that Leah was adaptive, if nothing else, and knew how to follow up to keep up with the development in the non-magical world. In any case, I found a printing press that could work without a computer, but did work on electricity, so I had to strip the electrical components from the design from it and had to modify it so that it would work with magic instead, sighed Quinn. He thought about the hours upon hours he had spent for months to figure out how the printer worked and study the mechanics, so that he didn't mess things up. It had taken Quinn a hell of a lot of time because he had to build it up from a blueprint and understand every single problem, including troubleshooting the hiccups that he faced along the way. After figuring out how to get electricity out of the equation, the rest of it was easy. Replacing electricity with magic was mighty easy because I know magic better than I know electricity. And I know what you're thinking, the misuse of Muggle artifacts offices from across the globe banning this press. Don't worry, while it works on magic and is automated to a large extent, I made it so that in the hands of a non-magical, it would be a large useless waste of metal. I will give you the final design later, and you can have it checked later. Though you would have to move the prototype built in my suitcase out of there to take it away. Finally, Quinn pushed the envelope towards the front and tapped on it for emphasis. This here is the recipe for the developing potions. But I have a few simple demands before I allow the family business to use these. Demands, repeated George and leaned away from the envelope. He studied his grandson while trying to deduce what he wanted in return for the potion recipe. And, what are these demands? Nothing serious. I'm not going to ask something outrageous. I'd like the subsidiary where we'll release the potion and printing presses to be named Silver Moon Printing Magitech. Whenever the West family business entered a new sector, they would create a new subsidiary with a new name. The West family business would act as the parent company to all their subsidiaries that spread across diverse markets. And the developer potion to be named Luna Developer 1, smiled Quinn, remembering the day he decided to start this project. Quinn walked into his AID workshop the week after the Christmas break and felt the festive spirit die down, as the Christmas, New Year decorations were removed. Inside the workshop, he found Luna sitting by the center aisle workstation with her painting set opened up on the worktop. Quinn smiled after he saw the paint set. He had been the one who had gifted her that paint set along with many other supplies to Luna a short while back. "Good evening, Luna," greeted Quinn. He removed his robe and took out a hanger from a cupboard to hang his outer Hogwarts robe. "What are you painting today?" "Good evening, I'm painting the Quibbler," replied Luna shortly, not looking up at Quinn. "The Quibbler?" repeated Quinn in surprise and confusion as he turned towards his assistant and saw this week's issue of Quibbler opened in front of her. Nodded Luna as he picked up pink paint on her brush from the color palette. "The Quibbler doesn't have color. I asked Daddy to add color to the pictures and pages, but he said it wasn't possible. All these creatures in the articles are so pretty and happy, but they don't have color. So I decided to paint all my Quibbler issues to give them color." Quinn sat down opposite Luna and stared at the blonde as she hummed a tune while continuing to paint and swinging her legs under the desk. He looked at his assistant Junior, a dear friend, and knew that out of everybody he knew, Luna was the person who held the greatest interest and love towards the fine arts. She would regularly take on new projects like paintings, drawings, mosaics, caricatures, portraits, calligraphy, and other types of visual arts. It was the reason Quinn had brought her the paint supplies in return for her incidental but much appreciated disturbance, while he was talking to Daphne, Tracy, and Astoria about him being sighted by the Slytherin common room lake windows. "Color, huh?" thought Quinn as he stared at the half-uncolored page of the Quibbler magazine and Luna's color palette. "Let's make something new, shall we?" From that day onwards, Quinn started to research why colored moving pictures were so costly and found that the existing recipes spread across the market were too high for mass production. The ingredients that were used took time to grow, and the potion took time to brew. Hence, Quinn took some books inside his ever-growing library and started to read on pigment potions, and the range of ingredients that could be used to brew the various types of development potions. The answer to the solution was present right in front of Quinn. His books from across the globe held snippets of knowledge that, combined, could create a cheap potion recipe that stood above the color standards of the current market. He used the preferred color pigments and developing solution potions of different magical cultures, since the times of ages-old paintings and murals. He studied their composition, contacted Gary to get his opinion, wrote home to Elliot to get samples, and conducted experiments to create a modern alternative to them that was cheaper and took less time to brew. It took months of research and development, while working on other projects, but Quinn successfully developed a potion recipe that worked with photographs, paints, inks, and a few other types of pigments. Luna had been the inspiration and reason behind creating his potion recipe, so he decided that Luna must be mentioned in some way. Quinn knew how the West family business operated and how they built subsidiaries for every new industry, and since he was the creator of the product, he should have a say in the name. So here he was, demanding that the inspiration behind his creation be honored. Leah and George looked at each other, and Leah shrugged in acceptance. She didn't mind naming the new subsidiary what Quinn wanted, and because the product name matched the company name, it was all good. Lunar Developer 1, asked George, wondering about the number in the product name. You can use the number 1 in the internal records and remove it from the marketing name, answered Quinn, and then crossed his arms as he stared at the potion vial on the table. This potion recipe still has a lot of room for development. I'm sure that after some time, the potion recipe will improve, so Lunar Developer 1 is the current product. The future might hold a better product than this. Quinn knew that it wouldn't take time to figure out the potion recipe when it spread across the world, and alternates would rise given time. In those times, the Lunar Developer would need to grow to stand apart from the competition. Set up a research and development department inside the new company, and ask them to find ways to constantly research improvements to the recipe, said Quinn, and removed his eyes from the vial to look up. With all the other things I'm doing, it will take maybe a couple of years before I can revamp the entire recipe and give you a new version that will be much better than this one. So until then, employ potioneers and herbologists should add subtle improvements to remain at the top of the industry. Quinn didn't have time to keep working on the potion recipe, and there was no need to create a better one while the one he had was the best on the market, and nothing else was even close to it. He was going to pause his research of pigment potions for a while until it was time to develop a new one, which would be a major improvement. Do you agree? Asked Quinn. We agree, nodded Leah, and George, too, nodded with a smile. Quinn had provided them another product to put them on the top of yet another market and bring in rolling profits. Chapter 130, Quasp, World of Light. Let's move on to the next product, shall we? Said Quinn after the film developing potion and the new color printing press pitch was over. I've another market-dominating product that has the potential to replace the existing product, and replace it till it no longer has a market share. That sounds promising, commented Leah. Her confidence in Quinn was at an all-time high. In Leah's eyes, Quinn was the treasure chest that would give out precious treasures when opened. I have been using this since my second year, spoke Quinn while taking out a thin metal strip with a rune etched onto the surface. I've been using this in office and workshop at Hogwarts. It's also everywhere in my suitcase. Leah and George stared at the hexagonal plate of metal the size of a drink coaster. They could see a rune cluster of shallow depth etched across the surface. They couldn't recognize the function of the runes from a first glance, so they looked up at Quinn for an introduction and explanation. The window in the room that let in sunlight, lighting up the space in natural light, turned opaque, blocking the majority of the light from entering inside and plunging the room into darkness. When the sun sets, the source of light in all buildings across the globe are everlasting, long-lasting candles. Quinn's voice sounded in the dark as he introduced the product. Be it rooms without windows or underground areas, you would find everlasting candles or torches lighting up the room. It's a household item that people probably couldn't live without, but what if I told you that I have created something that could replace something as prominent as everlasting candles? Around this time, Leah and George's eyes adjusted to the light, and they could see a faint smile across Quinn's face. I present you MLE, Magical Light Emitter, spoke Quinn as he said it. The hexagonal metal plate glowed up and bathed the room in a faint white light. As Quinn continued to talk, the light from the MLE got stronger. An amalgamation of light-based runes, integrated together to produce light rivaling a well-executed and boosted Lumos charm and perfect for lighting up rooms. Just before the light got uncomfortably bright to directly look at, Quinn took out a glass hemisphere from his pockets and fixed it above the hexagonal plate. The glass worked as an excellent buffer and diffused the light from the runes to create similar effects to an electric light bulb. The MLE floated up as Quinn levitated it with his magic, and soon it was at the ceiling, dome side down, dispersing clean white light to a part of the room. Now the question is, why should we switch from everlasting candles to MLE, spoke Quinn, bringing to attention the biggest challenge to the success of a product. I would say that because of the nature of an open flame, the setting of candles and torches is limited. The number of candles needed to properly is large. But with MLE, that number is cut short by a lot. He pointed at the MLE on the roof and pointed out. This one is the simplest model that I have created, and it can light up a third of a fairly sizable room. I have stronger models and can be used in different scenarios: ambient indoor lighting, ambient outdoor lighting, task lighting, accent lightings. In short, I have a different line of products that have been optimized to work in different scenarios. Unlike the massively inefficient everlasting flame products, I have created products that target efficiency and would be massively better than the current everlasting products. Quinn clapped his hands, and the white light turned to yellow, then to red, purple, green, blue, and multitudes of colors. Leah and George stared above to see the color of light change with every second, and under Quinn's command, the intensity and warmth of the light also switched with the second. I can do all this with just one prototype, so think what I could do with things that created to fit certain needs, spoke Quinn. What had started as Project Edison in his AID project files had become so big that it had turned into a vast array of applications. And because Quinn lived in Hogwarts for most of his year, he saw different types of rooms and spaces requiring different lighting types. Somewhere along the line, Quinn started to analyze areas in terms of lighting, and soon, he had a line of products that he could use to light any place he desired. How about I give you a little demonstration about what I am talking about? Something that will exactly show you what I am talking about, spoke Quinn, and the MLE on the top dropped down for Quinn to catch it and place it back on the table. He also switched the MLE off, and the room went dark once again. This is what I saw when I say proper lighting, declared Quinn, and suddenly the room was lit up like it was a non-magical conference room. The MLE Quinn had hidden in the ceilings using illusion charms became visible and lit up according to the configuration he had predetermined. The room was lit up evenly and clearly, while the table area was slightly brighter than the rest of the room. George looked at the room and felt more impressed than anyone because he was used to candle lighting, which always left parts of the room in darkness. But currently, every single corner of the room was lit. And he felt the new white hue much better than the yellow light that he was used to. Grandson and grandfather both preferred white to yellow. We can install these in our stores, and it will attract more customers, spoke up George as his mind started to turn on applications. Just by using these lighting, our stores would stand out more than any other store in the area. And if we can get more people in the stores, the chances of them buying something would increase, meaning more sales, concluded Leah as her mind too made connections. Quinn nodded as he had first-hand seen the effect of lighting. When he had changed the lighting in his office, it created an impressive impact on every student that ever visited the office. For an entire year, students would stare at the lights before talking about their problems. And it extended to every new student he served this year. Just one little change made the students think that Quinn's office was unique and reinforced a positive impression of AID as a service. There is one another thing that I would like to discuss with you too, spoke Quinn, and he wasn't sure how Leah and George would react to his upcoming suggestion. What is it? Asked George, still staring at the lights on the ceilings. Would you like me to build a planned obsolescence in the various MLE products, spoke Quinn, hesitant about adding something in his products that would knowingly limit the actual capabilities. Planned obsolescence? Questioned George, not familiar with the term. Even Leah didn't understand the word. Planning or designing a product with an artificially limited useful life or a purposely frail design, so that it becomes obsolete after a certain predetermined period upon which it decrementally functions or suddenly ceases to function, explained Quinn and introduced his family with the new concept. The rationale behind this strategy is to generate long-term sales volume by reducing the time between repeat purchases. It is the deliberate shortening of a lifespan of a product to force people to purchase functional replacements. Quinn tapped the MLE on the table and continued with context. My current designs of MLE have a life expectancy of 100,000 hours, 10,000 hours. After those active hours, the runes on the metal would stop working, but I can add some runes that would reduce the life expectancy to say something like 10,000 hours, 10,000 hours. That way, the customers would have to buy new ones after those 10,000 hours, 10,000 hours. Contrived durability was a strategy of shortening the product lifetime, before releasing it onto the market by designing it to deteriorate before the actual lifespan. The idea of planned obsolescence was something Quinn thought of because of its occurrence in non-magical history. On the 23rd of December, 1924, a group of leading international businessmen gathered in Geneva for a meeting that would alter the world for decades to come. Present were top representatives from all the major light bulb manufacturers, including Germany's Osram, the Netherlands' Philips, France's company Des Lampes, and the United States' General Electric. As revelers hung Christmas lights elsewhere in the city, the group founded the Phoebus Cartel. This supervisory body would carve up the worldwide incandescent light bulb market, with each national and regional zone assigned its own manufacturers and production quotas. It was the first cartel in history to enjoy a truly global reach. The Phoebus cartel's grip on the light bulb market lasted into the 1930s. The cartel's far more enduring legacy was to engineer a shorter lifespan for the incandescent light bulb. By early 1925, this became codified at 1,000 hours for a pear-shaped household bulb, a marked reduction from the 1,500 to 2,000 hours that had previously been common. Cartel members rationalized this approach as a trade-off. Their light bulbs were of higher quality, more efficient, and brighter burning than other bulbs. They also cost a lot more. Indeed, all evidence points to the cartels being motivated by profits and increased sales, not by what was best for the consumer. In carefully crafting a light bulb with a relatively short lifespan, the cartel thus hatched the industrial strategy known as planned obsolescence. They reduced the lifetime capacity of their bulbs from 2,500 hours to 1,000 hours, and thus ensuring that their profits would increase due to the demand they had artificially manufactured. And Quinn stood in the same position as them. His MLE were better in every single aspect than the current products, and that included the lifespan. If Quinn was to release the MLE as they were, they would last 45 years with an average of 6 hours of daily usage. That meant buying MLE would become a once or twice in a lifetime purchase, meaning that the West profits see explosive profits, but they would subside when the demand would be fulfilled after a single purchase. "What do you suggest?" asked Leah. She calculated the lifespan from what data Quinn had given and understood what it entailed. "If what you suggest is true, then we might eradicate the lighting industry upon the release of these. From a business point of view, I would suggest that we cap the lifespan of MLE products according to their use. Like, personal home bulbs go bad after 10,000 hours, and for products like large floodlights that might be used in underground places like the Ministry of Magic, I could design them to last longer because those work all day round. In short, we can decide the lifespan according to the use of a specific product," suggested Quinn. Leah thought for a second before turning to George and asked, "What should we do?" George moved his eyes between his two grandchildren, and after thinking for a good minute, he turned to Leah and announced his decision. "You decide." Leah blinked a couple of seconds, and after comprehending the short sentence, she inquired, "I decide?" "Yes, what you decide will be the path of the company. This decision is solely for you to take." "I am leaving this up to you," clarified George. This was the best opportunity to test Leah's progress and her decision-making abilities. Leah had been working under his mentorship for nearly 7 years, and George thought that this was the correct time to see how she would perform when faced with a vital decision. Leah briefly glanced at Quinn, who looked at her without any change in expression, before turning back to George to see if he was serious. The older man was entirely serious and looked at his granddaughter, waiting for her decision. Leah West, a 7-year career woman, turned her eyes to the MLE on the table before looking up at MLS on the ceiling. She thought hard and long about the decision that had been placed on her. The decision that could change the lives of many and transform the lifestyle of millions of people. "We will go with the planned obsolescence like Quinn suggested," started Leah as she gazed at Quinn. "We will decide the lifespans later on, and you will give me a write-up on your recommendations. I want to know, what do you think the lifespan should be? This is what we're going to do. When we sell the M.L.Es, we will say that rooms wear off after the time that we're going to decide. We're going to offer the customers an offer: when the MLE dies, they can bring in the old room plate and deposit it to us for a discount for the new MLE." She turned to Quinn and asked, "If you plant planned obsolescence into the MLE, what are the chances that someone will figure out what we're doing? Do you think someone will decode the rooms while trying to figure out how to make the MLS?" "No, unlike this one," pointed Quinn at the MLE on the table. "The designs that I will pass on to you won't have the rooms carved on the surface for everyone to see. I took planned obsolescence into account and designed the entire product line with an anti-piracy design approach. If they open the product up for any reason, the rune cluster will break down and become gibberish." "That's great, one less worry to stress about," nodded Leah in appreciation. "On the production side of things, we're going to divide the production between different groups. No single worker will know how to carve the entire runic cluster. I'm going to go on a limb and say that we're going to split the production process between countries. Every stage of the process would be in a different factory. It will up the cost by a level, but I think I can figure out a way to cut costs. Grandfather, you will have to help me out on this one. I'm not experienced in the multi-country production process. Don't worry, I will guide you through the process, smiled George, satisfied with the decisions that Leah was making. The decision to split the production to keep the trade information a secret had impressed George, given that Leah only had a brief time to come up with a base strategy. Quinn silently watched as his sister and grandfather bounced ideas back and forth on a product that he created. His worries about introducing something that could eradicate an entire industry was relieved seeing his family's initiative and response. Quinn had taken out the MLE with the full expectations that it would be rejected by them and had set his expectations accordingly. He would have been satisfied with creating M.L.Es for family and friends and no one else. He didn't have the desire to make everything he made to become popular and be available to the public. The products that he made were foremost just a way to solidify and check his learnings. The decision to sell them was because he came from a business family, and if he could help them grow, then that would be a thing that Quinn would gladly help in. The second QWASP ended after Quinn, the inventor, introduced 2 lines of products that had massive market-changing potential to his investors, Leah and George. This marks the end of part 49 of the story, Magical Journey in Harry Potter World. Thank you for listening. Please like the video and hit the subscribe button to listen more. Hit the bell icon to get notified of all the new content uploaded to the channel ASAP.